You have behaved like a there we go. Yes.
We have proposed that the NDC headquarters should be named Rawlings House. Pending approval by the National Executive, a kingmaker, than to be a king. So whilst we were forming a party, we were advised that you go and look for somebody who is respected in the community to sign as a founding member, so that you will be able to mobilize voters and mobilize community people to win. So the names we have here, some of them did not have anything to do with the PNDC at all. In fact, some of them were victims of the process. But we found a way of talking to them, because they were still very important. That, can you join us? Can you join us? And so on. I don't want to expose anybody, but Comrade Avoka, Cletus Avoka was a victim of the revolution. And then you have Abba Central, Aseidu was, I think, a headmaster, director of education who had been ruffled by the process. But eventually, we got him on board. In fact, Mr. Speaker, current Speaker, Prez, as for him, he believed in the cause. But after having graduated as a young lawyer, there was an announcement that the following people should report at the BNI headquarters 9 a.m. without fail. And when you hear without fail, you don't know whether you are going to be given a position or you are going to be punished. So Comrade Bagben and his colleagues rushed there. They rather went to the regional office of the BNI, only to be told that they should go to the headquarters. The time they reached headquarters, they were late by about 15 minutes. So when they say 9 o'clock without fail, do you understand? Before he could say that, he had received a dirty slap. And revolutionary who are going to be assigned duty, but they have to slap him first. And you know who slapped Bagben? A father thing. So later on, when we met in Parliament, myself, Bagben, and the father stood up one morning.
It was a special day, and we as a country must be blessed. And after he has done this and paid his dues, this nation went into so much difficulty. The spirit of our nation sank to a very low level. We reached a place where this country became the butt of jokes and ridicule. Even neighbors were laughing at us. I know that. Why? Because I was born at the border and schooled across across next door, Ethiopia. And I know as a young child how Togolese look down upon our country. Some of you don't have an idea.
No.
When young Ghanaians used to be Shushan boys in London, our ladies used to be prostitutes in Lomé in Côte d'Ivoire. Until 1979, followed by December 31st. That was where the beginning of the revival of the spirit of our country started. And today you have people who call themselves members of this party and who do not understand the sanctity of these days. What I can say is that those of you who do that, what you truly are MPP people hiding in the NDC and pretending
during the Liman administration or Liman elections 1979, there was an effort to build a political party which would take the best from CPP and the best from then UP, so that we can form the third force. That third force came to be known as UNC. And I wasn't surprised at all that when PNDC happened, it was some of these people who were from the UNC background who quickly joined. People like Alhaji Mahama, our current chairman of the Council of Elders. He was the running mate for the UNC at that time. You have people like Dr. Obeda Samoa, who was the General Secretary. No, he wasn't, he contested elections later. But Nana Mudankwa Akufo-Addo was the General Secretary of UNC at that time. People like Henry Sawyer was also there. And your current national chairman was the constituency secretary of UNC in Wenchi West. So you see that when the PNDC was launched, many of these fine gentlemen joined the process to change the country. After 11 years of democratic reconstruction, there was a need to return to constitutional rule. And so there was a great debate as to what the PNDC should do. One faction argued that we should join one of the traditions, either CPP or UP. Another faction argued that we came as nationalists and revolutionaries. So our job is done. Let us dissolve the PNDC and let everybody join whatever party they choose. And in fact, there were hardliners within the PNDC who felt that they wouldn't have anything to do with multi-party elections at all. Then, yet another group, which was made essentially of cadres, they said that looking at the record of the PNDC, the developmental achievements and the others, we can form a political party on our own which will represent the third force in the politics of this country. There were several meetings. Chairman Rawlings himself I'm sure was confused. He didn't know which faction to join. But the cadres led the way. And eventually, I believe the final decision to form our own party was taken in Sunyani, I believe. And then the chairman of NDC was informed that we have decided to form our own party. And that was how NDC came to be. All the others have been spoken about by Comrade Fiavi. Much of this history is also documented in our book, our compilation, The Administrative History of NDC. Copies are available at our library. If you want to buy, you get copies. We also have a compilation of NDC constitutions from 1992 to date. If you want to copy, you can buy and you can trace the development of NDC to date. And there's yet another interesting compilation which has to do with the manifesto scroll, the things we have promised as a government in the past or as a party going into elections. That compilation is available. The one that we are working on now has to do with NDC in the news. We've compiled all the important news items in the Daily Graphic and in Ghanaian Times about NDC from 1992 to date. Very soon that one will also be locked so that we can have a proper documentation of our history. And I'm sure when the time comes for us to build our museum, we will have all these things shown there so that when we walk through the museum, you know at a glance where NDC had come from and where NDC is going. We started with the consultative assembly when it became clear that we must return to constitutional rule. There was a need to do a constitution, and that was where some of us met, myself, Kofi, and many other comrades that were mentioned. We were selected from as one person from these assemblies, a certain number of paramount chiefs in the country, a certain number of cadres in the country, and recognizable institutions in the country. Whilst it is true that the UP tradition essentially and the institutions that they control refused to join the consultative assembly, they were very actively working to revive the UP tradition. And so even as the constitutional making was ongoing, there were several meetings both of the party, which was called the Front. In actual fact, in all our documents, it was called the Revolutionary Front. But we wanted to hide the aspect of the revolution, so we cut it short and called it the Front. Our leader was Comrade Guzitano, and people like Papa Datsun, Cecilia Johnson, and all that were on board, and we were holding night meetings to make sure that the anti-revolutionary forces in the consultative assembly do not craft a constitution that would go against the core beliefs that we stood for, that is probity, accountability, and to ensure that nobody puts in anything there that will seek to disqualify the PNDC chairman, who we wanted to be our flag bearer. So that was how the constitution came to be. And again, we recognize that Chairman Rawlings had declared that the revolution has come to stabilize the politics of this country, and that there will be no more coup d'etats. And so, in drafting the constitution, we were consciously looking for ways to produce a constitution that will last. So we took all the previous constitutions from the independent constitution up to the Lima Constitution, 79, looking for ways of putting in articles and clauses that will stabilize this country. I'm happy that so far we have achieved that. Now, when we mention some of the provisions, you will not know that they were put in there to provide stability in our politics. One of them is the creation of the District Assembly Common Fund. Because we realized that in the past, the government was, taking to have an opposition area, then nothing goes there. So we said that let us find a way of making sure that the nation's cake will be distributed in such a way that no matter where you find yourself, you at least benefit something from the taxes that you are paying. So we created the common fund and made a provision that let us put at least 7% of the nation's revenue there into a fund, which will be distributed across the country so that every district at least will have money to provide some development. So that is the background of the creation of the common fund. We also realize that the chieftaincy institution